Hello and welcome back to the In the Moment magazine podcast. I'm Sarah Orr. We all know how rested and relaxed we feel after a great night's sleep, but more people than ever are suffering from insomnia. According to the Institute of Medicine, 50 to 70 million Americans suffer from insomnia, and the UK is not much better. It's around a third of the population. Today I'm joined by Dr. Nerina Ramlakhan, author of The Little Book of Sleep, to talk about how we can improve our sleep quality and what causes us to sleep badly. So, hello Nerina.
Hello Sarah.
So, why are we sleeping so badly? Why is insomnia such a problem for our society?
Yes, it is a problem for our society today, in today's world. Absolutely. I'm very busy. Insomnia has been around for a very long time. Probably, human beings have always, at some point in their lives, would have had problems sleeping. But it's particularly a problem at the moment because the world is going so fast. There are so many demands. We're so busy and we really need to recover. We need energy to be able to manage the demands of our days. And for many, they're not getting that energy and that recuperation that they need. And so the spotlight is on sleep.
Okay, so what actually happens to our bodies when we don't get a good night's sleep?
Yeah, human beings are designed to spend roughly a third of their life sleeping. So there's a reason why.
That's a lot.
It's a lot of time. And there's an intelligence built into that design. So I'm trained as a Western scientist. I have a PhD in physiology, but I've also studied the Eastern sciences, which I talk about in the Little Book of Sleep as well. And when you integrate these different sciences, it seems to give an insight into what it is that really happens when we sleep. So when we sleep, and when we sleep deeply, and I can talk about what that means, but when we sleep deeply, it repairs the body on every level, physically, mentally, emotionally, I believe spiritually as well. So, we wake up in the morning and we feel inspired and passionate and creative, looking forward to the day ahead. So conversely, when we don't sleep well, we get the opposite of that. So I've been working with sleep problems for over 2.5 decades, and I've noticed that when people don't sleep well, and if this goes on for too long, they might have physical problems, ailments, stomach problems, back problems, headaches, skin problems, or the immune system getting ill a lot with colds and flu and that sort of thing, or even more severe physical problems, emotional problems, mental health problems. Because I worked in psychiatry for over 10 years. And the biggest part of my remit with that work was to help the patients to get good sleep because it was healing them. It was helping them to recover emotionally. So when we don't sleep, we start to fall apart emotionally.
So you can't really underestimate the importance of it then.
It's very important.
It's so essential for our well-being and our health as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. What are then the benefits of a good night's sleep? In the book, you're using a Sanskrit word for this. Sattvic? Is saying it right?
Sattvic, yes.
So what makes sattvic sleep?
Yeah. So sattvic it's from the Sanskrit word meaning pure. And I think Gwyneth Paltrow, the actress, she used the word clean sleep, the label clean sleep. And I think this is kind of what she was talking about. So it's not just about going to bed and sleeping 7 or 8 hours. With my work, my philosophy is that it's not just about getting 7 or 8 hours of sleep. It's about, you could get 5 hours of sleep, which are far more restorative and healing than the 7 or 8 hours of junk sleep. So sattvic sleep is good, deep sleep with the right amount of REM sleep or rapid eye movement sleep. So when we sleep at night, we sleep in 90-minute cycles. So if I can tell you a little bit about the science of sleep.
Oh, yes, of course.
We sleep in 90-minute cycles, and each 90-minute cycle is divided into 5 phases. You have phases 1 and 2, which are light sleep, and phases 3 and 4, which are deep sleep, and then phase 5, which is REM sleep. Now, it's the phases 3 and 4, the deep sleep, which it's really important. That's the sleep you really need to be getting, and the right amount of REM sleep. And deep sleep in traditional Chinese medicine and in Indian medicine, Ayurveda, these sciences tell us that when you get good deep sleep, it repairs the body. All the different organ systems in the body are repaired and rebalanced. So, for example, if you get that first phase of sleep before midnight, the deep sleep that you get before midnight repairs and rebalances the stress organ system. So the adrenal glands, the thyroid, and the pituitary. So when I'm working with patients who have things like fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue, I put a lot of emphasis on them getting to bed early and getting that good deep sleep, the early phases before midnight, because it starts to heal their chronic fatigue symptoms, you know. So sattvic sleep heals the body. It heals the mind. It heals the emotions. And the right type of REM sleep and the right amount of it helps to organize the brain and the ability to think clearly and creatively and to process emotions, because we process emotions and memories during our REM sleep.
So that's when you're having your REM sleep, that's when the dreams are happening. Is that right?
Largely, yes, it happens during REM sleep. And disorders of REM sleep can cause all sorts of things from, I call them the parasomnias. They call the nightmares, night terrors, sleepwalking,
Sounds
sleep
horrible.
talking, teeth grinding.
Oh, my sister does that.
It's very
She sounds like
common.
she's eating crackers in her sleep. It's not good.
Does she wear a mouth guard?
Oh, she does, yeah.
So typically I see teeth grinding with perfectionistic overthinkers.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yes.
She's not going to listen to this. This is fine.
Yes, because she won't have the time, because she'll be far too busy doing other things.
Of course.
But, people who are thinking too much, they're in their heads too much, they're constantly thinking about the next thing and the next thing. It's never good enough. Those are the perfectionistic overthinkers, and they are more likely to suffer from bruxism or teeth grinding.
Oh, that's very interesting. I know one thing you mentioned in the book is about having a sleep personality. So can you tell me a bit more about what the different kinds of sleep personalities are?
Yeah, so, if you look at the work of other sleep researchers, they'll talk about sleep chronotypes, the owls and the larks, depending on whether you're an early riser or whether you're a night owl. So a night owl tends to go to bed late and wake up later. A lark goes to bed early and wakes up early. And but in my sleep classifications, based on my many years of experience and based on my personal journey of solving my own sleep problems as well, I classify people into two extremes. One end of the scale, you have the martini sleeper. The martini sleeper, like the cocktail of the 70s, the strapline, the drink that you can drink anytime, any place, anywhere. So your martini sleeper can sleep anytime, any place, anywhere. They don't know why I have a job, basically.
Well, these people are lucky, maybe.
Yes. They're blessed. And then you have the sensitive sleeper who wakes up at the slightest noise. They need things to be just right before they can sleep. Even the feel of their pillow. So they might travel on an aeroplane with their own pillow.
Yeah.
They need to sleep on their side of the bed. They don't sleep on an argument, whereas your martini sleeper will say, we've had an argument, I need to go to bed and sleep this off.
Yeah.
And your sensitive sleeper will say, how on earth can you sleep? How can you go to bed sleeping on a problem?
Yeah.
So those are the two extremes. But fortunately, with awareness and learning how to manage your sleep, a sensitive sleeper can become more martini-like, as I have done.
You've martinied.
I've martinied, and it's nothing to do with alcohol.
No. So how did you do it then?
I'll try and give you the shortish answer to that question. By getting ill.
Oh.
As a result of really not sleeping. That was part of the problem, but I really couldn't settle. Even when I was a baby, my mother was taking me from one doctor to the next because the poor woman couldn't get any sleep herself because I couldn't sleep. But my sleep problems started from childhood and continued into my 30s. And when I started working with people in health screening at the clinic, I noticed that I had a flair or a knack for talking to people about their sleep problems and a knack for solving their sleep problems. So while I was solving their sleep problems, I was solving my own sleep problems. So it was really a fascination with sleep because of my own issues with sleep, which led me to helping others and writing books about it and then becoming a sort of international speaker called a sleep expert, helping people to sleep. So, I've definitely learned how to become more martini-like. If I had to generalize or to summarize what's really helped me, the biggest thing is learning how to relax into life a bit more.
Okay.
Learning how to let go a bit more. Probably like your sister. I was going to say I was a perfectionistic overthinker, but I think I probably still am.
Yeah.
But I've become a lot more selective about the things I worry about.
Oh.
And maybe this has come with age as well. But, I've learned how to look after myself. I've learnt the what self-care really means to me. And I have learnt how to let go of the day when I get into bed, because at the end of the day, sleep is an act of faith. It's an act of trust. We sleep when we feel safe.
Yes, I mean, one thing that I was thinking about when I was reading your book is that sometimes people can find that worrying about sleep means that they don't sleep.
Yes.
So can we talk more about that as a problem?
Yeah, and it's given birth to a whole other sleep problem, syndrome, if you like, called orthosomnia, where people are becoming unhealthily obsessed and fixated on the number of hours of sleep that they are or aren't getting, and the type of sleep that they are or aren't getting as a result of measuring. And, there are all sorts of, wearable devices which have flooded the market. I won't mention any brands, and I am actually wearing one myself at the moment.
Okay, we won't talk about that then.
We won't talk about that, but it has told me that I've done almost 12,000 steps today, which is rather nice. But I don't wear this in bed at night. Measuring your sleep is inaccurate. These devices do not measure your sleep accurately. And we've become, because, as I said right at the beginning, the world is going so fast, there's so much demand, we really need to get good sleep to meet the demands of the day. So we've become very fixated on needing sleep. And we've become fixated on measuring sleep because, we're living in this age where there's so much amazing technology at our fingertips. And we like measuring, but, we have to take the measurement with a tiny pinch of salt. Because these devices, they don't really measure what truly happens when you sleep at night.
Okay, so they're not telling you the quality of sleep that you're getting.
They're not telling you necessarily the quality. They're not telling you what really is happening with your sleep. For example, so I'll tell you a few things, Sarah. It's possible to sleep with your eyes open. I'm sure you'll have had the experience of reading a book at night and you were really interested in the book and you read a whole chapter. The next night you go back to read it and you don't remember anything that you read the previous night. So you might have been reading with your eyes open and you were in a pseudo-sleep state while you were reading. But if you wear a device, it won't measure that you were sleeping during that time.
That's strange.
So often devices, they will underestimate how much sleep you're getting.
So is it quite common then for people to sleep with their eyes open?
I'm sure you've done it in meetings before.
Maybe, oh dear, maybe not.
Be honest
maybe I have, oh no.
It's very common. I mean, a very, when we sleep at night, we go through stages of consciousness. And we go from fully alert beta into relaxed alpha into more the early stages of sleep, light sleep, theta states and dream states. And then we go into the deep dreamless delta sleep where hopefully we get that sattvic sleep. So we pass through these different stages. But, even through the day, we can cycle through some of these states of consciousness. And if you're sitting in a meeting which is absolutely riveting, not. And then you just sort of glaze over and your eyes are wide open, but you're not quite there. And that's called a hypnagogic trance.
Wow.
Which is actually a sleep state. Now,
So we could be sleepwalking around and not have any idea.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And driving in that state obviously is dangerous. And if you go into that state where you think, I'll just close my eyes for a second, of course, you must pull over at the nearest convenience and rest.
Oh, goodness, that's quite scary.
It is quite, well, I mean, there's a lot of research looking at, and I've done a little bit of work with critical risk environments, police services, ambulance, long-distance lorry drivers, because there have been a number of industrial accidents reported which were caused by fatigue, people falling asleep on the job.
Yeah.
Oil spills.
Oh, dear.
And things like that, yes. So the implications of not getting enough of the right type of sleep can be really quite profound.
Yeah, I mean, actually, one thing I found really interesting when I was reading the book is that you were talking about that you can have like microsleep where you sleep for a couple of seconds and just have no idea that it's happened.
Yes.
So is that something that the body does quite a lot, or is that quite a rare thing?
No, it's as we get older as well, this can happen, and babies have their little naps throughout the day. So we are innately polyphasic in our sleep patterns, which poly meaning many. We are built to have many sleep phases in a day, as opposed to monophasic, which is go all day being awake, and then you sleep at night, one sleep phase. So we're built to be quite polyphasic. That's in our nature. And in fact, there is some evidence that some hunter-gatherer tribes are still polyphasic. They have micro-naps during the day when they can, and if there's a big hunt to be undertaken at night, then they'll be awake all night. Many athletes, notably Ellen MacArthur, when she sailed the Vendée Globe in 2002, she set a world record. She came first. She sailed solo for 72 days. I'll try and get the statistics right. She sailed for 72 days. She had 385 naps. Her longest period of sleep was 36 minutes. And she had lots of little microsleeps. And what microsleeps do is when you close your eyes, I'm closing my eyes right now. I'm not in a sleep state, and I won't be disrespectful to you by falling asleep on you during this podcast.
It'll be a bit dull if you do.
I think so. But, but if I were to, just to say theoretically, if I were to sit here and close my eyes for 5 minutes, I might not feel as if I've gone into a deep sleep. I might not even feel as if I've slept. But if you were to wire my brain up to an EEG machine, it would show that certain parts of my brain are shutting down. They're going into a rest and recovery state. And my working memory, which is the part of the brain which stores information, it operates on a moment-by-moment basis. When we're concentrating, the working memory closes down momentarily when we close our eyes. And it empties, and there's some filing and some consolidation of information. So when we open our eyes and come out of the microsleep, we have renewed energy and concentration.
Wow. So it's a bit like a computer, just turning it off and on again.
Yes.
So you can do that just by shutting your eyes and...
Closing your eyes is a very powerful thing to do, even if you don't think that you're napping. Just the act of closing your eyes is a very good thing to do. It's a very restful thing to do.
Wow. So if you're sort of having a busy day, perhaps at work, you could just close your eyes for a few seconds and refresh. Is that what you say?
Absolutely. And, there's been a lot of research that's come out of chronobiology units, notably one in Boston, where they are looking at people who are working in sustained operations and how often should they nap, so that they can keep their energy levels and their cognitive performance at a maximum. So, would it be helpful for them to have micro naps? And what they've found, and this is something that I'm talking a lot about in organizations, what they found is that ideally if we stop and do something restful every hour to hour and a half, then that can really enhance mental performance. So having some form of rest, even a micro nap, every hour to hour and a half. I'm not saying that, go to sleep under your desk every hour, pull up a duvet and just nestle down there, because it might be a little career limiting. But even if you were to just close your eyes every hour to hour and a half for 3 to 5 minutes, or do something restful like get up and move.
So perhaps you could do a meditation using an app, perhaps?
Yes, a meditation, or change channels by getting up and moving, or look at a picture of someone you love, or look at someone you love, or go and hug one of your colleagues, preferably someone you like.
Yeah, I mean, I perhaps think it might not be good at work if you want to go and stare at somebody for 5 minutes. They might be a bit freaked out.
They might be a little bit freaked out. But the idea is, for us to build a bit of oscillation into our days, as opposed to being relentlessly go, 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 which is the way the world has become. I remember when I used to work in an organisation where I had a coffee break and a lunch break and a tea break. And I went home in the evenings and I didn't work. Life is not like that now, is it?
No.
We can be on the go all the time. So we need to build more rest and recovery into our days, including micro naps or just moving more.
Yeah. So would you say having a siesta is a good thing then?
Oh, gosh, yes.
Oh, we should bring this in.
We should bring this back, definitely. Come to work and have a siesta. There are some organisations, enlightened organisations, who might even have nap rooms, or they have sleep pods in their offices. And certainly in countries like China and Japan, they're very much into napping. And of course, in the Mediterranean, there's the whole culture of siesta. Where my parents come from in South America, everything seems to shut down in the afternoon. So there's a lot to be said for the siesta. Now, this may not be, it may not work so well in our culture, and it may not give our organisations a competitive advantage, but certainly there is a good case for allowing people to come to work and rest, take time away from the computer, get away from phones. I mean, I find this ridiculous, but people do not even go to the toilet these days without their phones.
How strange.
which I find utterly ridiculous and unhygienic, to say the least. So we need to get off the mental treadmill and we will sleep better.
I'm going to be telling people this now. I thought it was quite interesting, actually. Another thing that you do mention in the book is about how our ancestors used to sleep in 2 phases.
Yes.
That you'd have a few hours sleep and then you wake up in the middle of the night and maybe you talk to your friends or read a book.
Yeah.
And then you go back to sleep for another few hours. So when is it that we stopped doing that? When did that stop being part of our culture?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because I think we are still inherently biphasic, but it has become problematical for a lot of people. They think it's a problem that they wake between 2 and 4 in the morning. And it's incredibly common. In fact, most people wake between 2 and 4 in the morning, at some point between 2 and 4 in the morning. But the problem these days is that people wake up, they then look at the time and they worry about how many hours of sleep they're going to get, how many hours of sleep they won't get if they don't get back to sleep. And then they worry about the implications for the next day. So it is normal to wake up, but it's not normal to stay awake and worry and do your emails or check your social media feed or your share prices or whatever. So a lot of my work is about reassuring people about what is normal. And it's normal to wake up at that time. I mean, in fact, I woke up at 3 a.m. Last night, or this morning, shall I say. But I was able to put myself back to sleep very quickly because I follow my own techniques for putting myself back to sleep. So it's immensely reassuring when I say to people, it is normal to wake up during the night. It's normal to wake up at some point between 2 and 4 in the morning. The issue is just what the behaviour you engage in when you wake up. We've stopped the behaviours of, waking up and chatting or going hunting or whatever it is that people used to do, because it comes back to the point where, we really need our sleep in order to be able to meet the demands of the day, because our lives have become so busy and frenetic.
Yeah, it's a shame. I kind of think it sounds quite fun.
I love it.
It's a lovely idea.
I love, sometimes when I have a deadline with my writing, and I am known for leaving things to the last minute. I love getting up in the early hours, stumbling down to my office in the garden, and writing for a bit, and then going back to bed at about 5, and I sleep for an hour and a half. And I sleep beautifully. And that early morning sleep is lovely. It feels a little bit like a guilty pleasure. And it's often very deep sleep as well. Now, I don't do that all the time. And I know of many prolific writers who abuse that early morning waking to write. And they slowly went mad. Because it's also, if you look at the kind of healing that you're getting during that phase of sleep, it's very important for your health that you do get that. And when I worked in psychiatry, many patients were waking in the early hours and couldn't get back to sleep, and they were suffering from anxiety and depression. So it's a nice one to play with if you can catch up.
So would you say maybe it's more about your attitude to it, so that if you wake up in the night, you think, okay, well, maybe I'll just go and do something for a bit and then go back to bed. It's not something to worry about.
Yes. And while I'm sitting here saying sleep is so important for us, I'm also saying we put so much pressure on our sleep. We don't just get our energy from sleep. We get our energy from the food we eat, the liquids we drink, hopefully the appropriate liquids, not overloading ourselves on alcohol and caffeine, but drinking enough water, how we breathe, whether we move enough during the day. Physical exercise is important. We also get our energy from our relationships. So how we live, how we love, how we think, our relationship with our devices. So people come to me with supposed sleep problems and exhaustion, and they come and they say, well, how can I get more sleep? And actually, once I start working with them, what it reveals is that the story isn't one of needing to get more sleep, but it's one of needing to clean up their waking hours so that the sleep they get is deeper and purer, and they're reviving the other parts of their lives which have fallen by the wayside. I had a young mum of 2 children who was very burnt out, on the verge of postnatal depression, who I worked with recently. And she said, I just don't have time to do X, Y, and Z, including exercise. And then we explored how much time she was spending on her phone. And we've set some boundaries around that. And she's finding time to exercise now, finding time to do 10 minutes of meditation a day. So, I'm not saying that the whole problem is about technology, but I do think we need to find a balance, and we need to stop overloading our sleep, expecting so much of our sleep.
Okay, so what positive habits can people develop then to help them get a better night's sleep?
Okay, so let me just give you some of my favourite ones.
Okay.
I would say nutrition is really important. The way you eat prepares your biochemistry for how you're going to sleep. So, for example, if you wake up in the morning feeling anxious, a lot of people wake up in the morning anxious and worrying about the day ahead, and they pick up their phone and they're already in their day and in their inbox. It's important that you eat healthily in the mornings, because if you eat breakfast, particularly if you're anxious, it helps you to make more melatonin at the end of the day so you can sleep at night. So from the minute you wake up in the morning, the choices you're making is preparing you for how you're going to sleep at night. So eat healthily, eat breakfast, include protein in your breakfast, drink water, drink 1.5 litres or so of water a day. Don't overindulge in caffeine. Ideally, no caffeine after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Don't sleep with your phone in the bedroom. Put your phone in another room, get a clock, an old-fashioned clock. They still make them. And ones that don't tick.
Yep, get an alarm clock. Don't use your phone as an alarm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And don't look at your phone during the night. Don't look at, if you get anxious about the time during the night, don't look at, if you're a perfectionist like your sister, don't look at the time during the night. Go to bed earlier, a few nights a week. And that means get into bed around 9:30, read for half an hour or so, and go to bed. And that sort of sleep, that hour and a half before midnight, is incredibly powerful for healing the whole body and anti-aging as well. Because I'm 96, you see, but I've been getting... Sorry, I'm joking. So get good sleep. Spend more time in nature. Nature is the perfect antidote to this electric world we're living in. And there's good science behind this as well. So this is going to sound a little bit woo-woo, but there is good science behind it. If you're really wired, go outside with bare feet and stand on a patch of earth and earth yourself. You will sleep better at night.
Really? So what's the science behind that? Just because I'm really intrigued.
Yeah, there's quite a complicated science. There's a very good book called Earthing.
Right.
But apparently because we come from nature, this is innate to us as human beings. When we're out in nature, we produce the hormones serotonin and oxytocin. Serotonin is the mood hormone. We produce more serotonin. Oxytocin is the trust hormone. And as I said earlier, sleep is an act of trust. It's an act of faith that whatever's going on in our day, we're going to put our head on the pillow and sleep. We're going to let go of all of that. So when you produce the trust hormone, oxytocin, it helps you to let go of the day. It helps you to produce more melatonin so you sleep. There's also something in the process of grounding and earthing to do with negative ions and just removing the negative ions from the body, which is what makes you feel more wired and restless. So being out in nature and camping, apparently 2 nights camping can reset your biological clock if you're really out of sync and you're not sleeping well.
Yeah, I found that really fascinating when I was reading the book, actually, that just a simple camping trip is all it takes just to reset you. It's really interesting, but it also shows how out of sync we really are. That you have to physically remove yourself from modern comforts and convenience to actually get your sleep cycle back to normal.
Absolutely. Because we are, just coming here to the offices, just looking at the city and looking at all the huge buildings, and, it's so far removed from our innate nature as human beings, as hunter-gatherers, where, we're evolved to be out there in the wilderness surrounded by greenery or nature in some form. So we're living in these worlds surrounded by technology and electricity, which brings its own joys and excitements and conveniences, but it's also something that neurologically we are still trying to adapt to it. We still haven't quite caught up. And our younger generation is getting there, but we, and certainly at my age, I'm just wondering whether I should give my age away, but I don't think I will.
If you want to.
Well, I'm in my 50s, and I'm still, we still are. It takes a while for our DNA to change. So we're still adapting to the world that we're living in. So part of that adaptation means that if we're going to spend a lot of our time in environments like this, surrounded by electromagnetism. We have to make an effort to get out into nature. I've just bought myself some barefoot shoes, actually, because I run. So I've just bought some shoes, which are very earthing and grounding. I'm going to experiment.
It's meant to be better for your feet as well, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Another thing I was thinking about, actually, is we don't often talk about daylight. Because, for example, for me, when I'm in the summer, I find that I wake up really early.
Yes.
I've got more energy.
Yeah.
In the winter, basically, I don't want to get up.
Yes.
So do we instinctively want to hibernate? Is that what's happening when we have those kind of patterns?
Yeah, some people do. Some of us do. And I certainly become quieter, less sociable. I turn in a little bit, I go a little bit underground during winter. And I think that's in our innate nature. I think when we're in tune with the seasons, it's probably quite a good thing. And my birthday is in spring, and I always feel as if my year starts in spring. It's when I start to feel more sociable and more creative, as we go into April. So I think certainly because the length of the day, the amount of sunlight, that can affect your melatonin levels. So wintertime, yes, there might be a greater tendency to oversleep. Now, traditional Chinese medicine, the Eastern sciences, like traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda, can offer some interesting insights as well. Ayurveda in particular, if you look at your nature, your elemental nature, and I talk about this a little bit in the book, but if you have a lot of water in your constitution, the watery types will tend to settle. So they may oversleep wintertime. And this is where using, you can get the daylight clocks, the ones that increase the light levels to falsely wake you up a little bit earlier. They can be helpful if you have a tendency to oversleep during winter.
Yeah, actually, my sister's got one of those, which is quite good, where you can set yourself almost like a dusk as well.
Yes.
So it's like a nightlight, but it fades.
Yes.
So you can go to sleep more naturally. And then in the morning, as you say, it brightens up. So
Absolutely.
It's a more natural way of waking and falling asleep. And you don't have some kind of annoying alarm in your ear, which can be a bit of a jarring experience.
Oh, I hate waking up with an alarm clock. Absolutely.
I used to have a really awful one, which had the most awful beep.
Yes.
And I used to put it on the other side of my bedroom because I hated it so much. But also, that made me physically get out of bed to go over and turn it off.
Are you a good sleeper then?
I am now, yes.
Yeah.
But back then, I just didn't want to wake up in the morning. So I had the world's most annoying alarm, which did the trick.
Brilliant. And when we there's so many things that affect our sleep. So many. That sleep is still a mystery. So I am a sleep expert. I have been working on my sleep for years. I call myself a martini sleeper, but I slept horrendously last night. I have no idea why. I had a wonderful day yesterday, very sociable, and maybe that was it. I'm innately an introvert. But I had the whole day talking to people, and I was in central London, surrounded by lots and lots of people. So I went to bed at night, and my sleep was very restless. And maybe I was also aware that I was getting up earlier to go cycling this morning. But there are so many things that can affect our sleep, including the seasons, including the lunar cycle, the phases of the moon. And again, there's good science behind this. But we often, a lot of my work is about reassuring people about what is normal and what isn't normal. So I didn't sleep brilliantly last night, but I feel great today. Now, if I'd woken up thinking, gosh, I hardly slept, what does my device say? Let me check the computer and see what it says about my deep sleep and my REM sleep. Oh, my goodness. I can talk myself into feeling awful. But if I just, I didn't sleep brilliantly, but I've eaten well, I've done some exercise, I've had lots of fresh air, I've drunk some water, I feel great.
Yeah.
So waking up also with a sense of purpose also affects us. If we're looking forward to the day ahead, that can really be a huge source of energy, even if you haven't slept that well.
Yeah, so it's really, a lot of it comes back to our attitude then, just how we see it.
Yes.
So it is strange. It's almost like you have to not trick yourself, but convince yourself that you're going to sleep well.
Yeah, and develop be aware of your mindset and whether it's helpful or not helpful. And, how you I love these couple of things. Little tips I'm going to give now, which are amazing for getting good sleep. It's how you end your day and how you start your day really has a profound impact on not just how you sleep, but also your energy. So going to bed, and as you turn your light off, going to bed in a state of gratitude and waking up in a state of gratitude. And I recently read, A Life in the Day of, at the back of the Sunday Times magazine.
Yes.
And I read it was Johnny Wilkinson. And I've met him, I've listened to him speak as well. And he's a lovely guy. But he was saying that he wakes up in the morning and he gives thanks. And as he goes off to sleep, he gives thanks for his day. And I do the same. And I wake up in the morning, and especially on the days where I'm feeling nervous or worried or anxious, because I do sometimes, I give thanks. I try and look for something to be grateful about. And sometimes it's just, might not have slept that well, but I rested in a lovely bed, and I love my pillows, and I love my duvet, and I like my bedroom. So I'm grateful for that. So cultivating an attitude of gratitude, I think, is a very powerful antidote to stress. If you go to bed in a stressed state, you won't sleep so well. If you wake up in that state, you won't live so well. So gratitude can go a long way.
Yeah. So what practical ways can people develop their gratitude?
Just simply as you go to bed at night. Well, you might want to keep a gratitude journal. If you think you're a particularly pessimistic person, you might want to take it to that length. Get yourself a nice notebook and pen, especially for this, and just write down, spend for 30 days, every day at the end of the day, write down all the things you're grateful for. And so that might be one approach. If you're far too busy for that, you might want to, as you turn your light off, just say to yourself, what am I grateful for? What happened today? Or you might want to just close your eyes and to go backwards through your day and think of all the tiny things that happened in your day that you're grateful for. And as you let your mind rest on each thing, say thank you. Now, you might start off with this technique thinking, it wasn't a spectacular day. I didn't get a seat on the train and it was really stressful at work and blah, blah, whatever you can think of. You might be focused on the negative things. But then the more you do this, in my experience, and I've noticed this when I work in psychiatry as well, when people start doing this, the more they start to cultivate the ability to find the good, even in the messiest of days, the more the brain starts to be trained to work that way.
Yeah.
If that, it's almost laying down new neurological pathways in the brain. And it's not about going around in a happy, clappy state of, everything is wonderful and deluding yourself. But it's about being realistically optimistic. Okay, I had a difficult day. Things didn't go that well at work, but, I had a nice cup of tea. I got a nice text message from somebody. I had a nice warm shower. I'm in my nice, warm, cozy bed right now. I had 5 minutes to listen to a piece of music, whatever, tiny things. But just starting to do that starts to cultivate a mindset which, if you continue doing it, it helps you sleep.
Would you say it also helps your brain wind down perhaps as well?
Yes, absolutely. It helps you to let go of the stress. It's impossible to be stressed and grateful in the same space. The brain doesn't work that way. So it's the perfect antidote to going to bed and feeling stressed. And one of the techniques, can I share one of the practical techniques from the book?
Please do.
It's called the I Love You exercise. Okay. And I used this one in the early hours of them when I woke at 3 this morning. And I was thinking, oh, crikey, I've got another few hours and then I need to wake up to go cycling. So I did this particular exercise. And I started with my right foot. And I focused on my right foot. And in my mind, silently, I said, I love my right foot. I love my right big toe. I love my right little toe. I love all the toes in my right foot. I love my right ankle. I love the heel of my right foot. Do you get the gist of it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite boring, but it puts you to sleep. And I kept falling asleep and having to go back to my right big toe. And you literally bore yourself to sleep, but with a positive affirmation. So it's like counting sheep, but a little bit more mindfully and lovingly.
I think there's some meditations which are like that as well. I mean, I use a meditation app sometimes to help me go to sleep.
Yes.
And it does have that exercise where you work your way through your body, like you think about your calf muscles and then you think about your knees and you work your way up the body.
Yeah. It comes from the ancient yogic technique of yoga nidra, which is yogic sleep, where it's a form of progressive muscle relaxation, but where you start with a part of the body and then you work your way up. And it's a very healing technique to use, but I love the I love you exercise. And it's particularly good for perfectionistic overthinkers. And I know that you know one.
Oh, yes.
Because often when we're being perfectionists, we're being hard on ourselves. And we're saying, it's not good enough, you're not good enough. So it's a perfect antidote to being hard on yourself, and it helps you relax your jaw as well.
Ah, well, I'll be passing that one on.
Yes, to a certain person.
Yes. Right, I think that would be a really nice place to leave it.
Lovely.
So would you like to tell everybody where they can get your book?
Oh, absolutely. Well, from the beginning of September, 6th of September, the book is released on the 6th of September, and it will be available in all good bookshops.
Of course.
And on Amazon, of course.
Yes.
And there will be a link to the book on my website as well, which is www.drnerina.com, drnerina.com.
Okay, and where can people follow you on social media?
Yes, I'm on Twitter, Dr. Nerina, and I'm on Facebook as well. So just find me on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn, so you can stalk me to your heart's content.
Thank you so much for joining us, and I feel like I've learnt a lot, and I hope that everybody listening has as well. And I hope everybody's enjoyed this podcast, and please, of course, do let us know what you think and leave us a review if you would like to. You can find us on social media on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram @InTheMomentMag. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back again soon.